Are you looking for the fastest way to boost your credit score? Having a hard time but just can't quite get over that 700 credit score hump? Well, look no further. I've got the perfect solution for you. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the fastest way that you can boost your credit score. So let's get started. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Credit Coach Nicole Scott, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about none other than Tradelines. Tradelines are the fastest way that you can boost your credit score, but of course, there is always a but, right? It's never too good to be true, right? The but is you need to have a clean profile if you want to add Tradelines to fully benefit, right? I have a lot of people that come to me and they say, Nicole, I want to boost my credit score. My credit is in the 600s. I need it to be a 700 and I need some Tradelines. I look at their credit report and they've got collections, they've got negative items on their credit profile. Now is not the time to add Tradelines to your credit profile if you have negative items on there. So in today's video about Tradelines, I'm going to be going over who Tradelines are for, when a good time would be to add Tradelines, what Tradelines might be best for you and your goals, and I'm also going to share my experience with adding Tradelines to my own credit profile and how I went about using Tradelines to boost my credit limits up into the $30,000 and $40,000 range. Now keep in mind, before this time period, I had never had a higher limit credit card in my life. I think my highest credit card limit was $3,500. So now with it being in the mid 30s, it's a game changer because I can use my credit cards and I don't have to worry about the credit card utilization, and you can leverage your credit to buy money making assets. Now we're going to be talking a lot today, guys, and I know it's going to be a lot of information. So make sure to do me a favor. Make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, because if you can't watch this entire video today, save it and watch it at a later date. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave me a comment below and let me know if you have any questions. Now, if you are interested in purchasing Tradelines, you can head to the description below. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do with you guys is I want to share with you our available Tradelines that we have. Now, every month does change as far as the availability of our Tradelines. We send out a list once a month with that month's Tradelines and what is available. Sometimes by the time we place our order, the Tradelines that we want might not be available because there is limited availability, and unfortunately the best Tradelines go the quickest, right? So we want to make sure that we are proactive, we are placing our orders in a timely fashion so we're not doing everything last minute. Another thing that a lot of people come to me is, hey, I'm in a rush, I need a credit score by next month of 700 plus, I need to add Tradelines. Okay, no problem, we can add the Tradelines, but we need to have your Tradeline order 5 days prior to the card statement date. Now, every Tradeline has a statement date that is listed on our sheet here, and you can see the statement date and the close date. Those are the two dates that are the same. So some people might refer to it as a closing date. Some people might refer to it as the statement date, the billing statement date. Whatever you refer to it as, it is the same. It is the last day of your billing cycle. The last day that your billing cycle is the date that your statement for the month will actually close. So whatever the account data is as of that closing date will report to the credit bureau. So if we add an authorized user to someone's account, whatever the statement data is as of that date, that will then report to the credit bureaus. It takes about 10 business days for the credit bureaus to update that to one's credit report. So that's why I always tell people you can see the Tradelines as soon as 10 business days from the statement date. So for example, if we have a statement date that is on the 3rd, this is the 3rd of the month every single month. So if you place your order, say for example, on July 3rd, or I'm sorry, we're going to need to place the order 5 days prior to the statement date. So if you place your order at the end of June and the statement date is for July 3rd, then that trade line would report to someone's credit by July 13th or so, right? You'll start seeing it one bureau, then the other bureau, then the next bureau. And we'll get to all the details as far as, what happens if it doesn't report and all of that good stuff, because I want to make sure that you guys are perfectly clear on how trade lines work, what they're meant to be used for, and how to use them properly, because I have been using trade lines for not only myself, but my clients. A lot of people come to me. I work with a lot of credit repair specialists as well, so they get trade lines for their clients, and it's just a win-win for everyone. What a trade line is essentially is, say for example, you come to me and you're like, hey, I need a trade line to boost my credit score. Okay, well, what a trade line is if I have a credit card and it has 100% on-time payment history and it has a credit utilization below, say, 15%, right? The lower the better. Then I can add someone as an authorized user to my credit card. I would get the card in the mail. Okay, I would need to activate the card and then I can cut it up. And then what happens is that credit line will report on your credit report. So you will inherit all of the benefits of that credit card. You'll inherit the perfect payment history. You'll inherit the credit limit on that bad boy. So there's a lot of benefit for you. You will not be able to use the account, nothing like that. It is simply to help enhance your credit profile, because think of it like this. You need to have comparable credit on your credit report in order for someone to just hand you a high limit credit card. If the highest credit card that you have is only $500, what makes you think that if you go and apply for a new credit card, you're going to get approved for 10K, 15K? It's probably not going to happen. You can't even get past 500. So you need to add what's called trade lines, and these are considered authorized user trade lines, to your credit profile to help enhance and add comparable credit to your credit profile, which will in return help you get approved for higher limits. It's also going to improve your credit score because you're going to inherit the credit history from that card. Now, keep in mind, if you are adding, say for example, a friend, if you're going to a family member and you're getting added as an authorized user onto their accounts, there's nothing wrong with that, and I highly encourage that. However, there's always a but, right? You need to verify that the account history has never had a late payment. They have never been late on any credit card bill, and they have a very low credit card balance. And it's based on a utilization. So, and that's a percentage. So if their credit limit is say $10,000, then they can comfortably use up to like $1,500. But if their credit limit is only $1,000, then they really shouldn't be using more than like $150 or so, right? Because once you go over 10%, it could damage you. Once you go over 15%, it is damaging. Once you go over 30%, it's really damaging, okay? It's the fastest way to lower your credit score besides getting a late payment on your credit profile, okay? So those are the two things that you want to make sure. You want to make sure that the client or the person that you're working with has 100% on-time payment history, no late payments, and their credit utilization based on whatever their credit limit is below 15% of the available credit limit. Now, utilization only counts against you with credit cards, okay? It does not count for loans. Now, you are not going to be able to be added as an authorized user for a loan. If you co-sign for someone on a loan, which I never recommend, maybe like an auto loan, then of course that would report to your credit. But I do not recommend that you co-sign for anybody for any reason, okay? I don't care if it's a husband, a daughter, a son. No, you need to help them with their credit so they can qualify on your own. Because if you guys, have a mishap, get a late payment, it's not only going to affect one, but two people now. So late payments are really, really detrimental to your credit health. Of course, they are not going to report that you have a late payment until you go past 30 days from the actual due date. So if you're like a day or two late from the due date, yes, you're going to have a late fee, but they're not going to report you as late until you are actually 30 days past the due date. So you actually have a 30-day cushion to get your stuff together and figure it out. And a lot of times the minimum due is not too much. So we need to get it together and manage our finances a little bit better so we can ensure that all of our credit card bills, at least the minimum payment, is made so you don't acquire that late fee and you don't get a late payment. If for auto loans, you just got to make sure that you pay it on time. If you can't afford it, don't buy the vehicle. I know it sounds like common sense, but you'd be surprised. So let's get back to the subject at hand here. Tradelines. Tradelines really are only working for authorized users on credit cards. So that's what these are. These are authorized user slots on credit card accounts, and they are, going to report the address onto your credit report. So if you get an address on your credit report and you don't know where it came from and you just got a trade line, generally the address of the cardholder is going to report to your credit report because you got credit sent to you at that address, if that makes sense. I know it could be confusing. So let's go back to orders must be placed 5 days prior to the statement date so we can ensure that you get added and the trade line is going to have plenty enough time to process everything. So that way, as of the statement date, it will get reported to the credit bureaus. Now, some banks will report faster than others because it's all about when the banks actually report to the credit bureaus. Not every bank is going to report on that date. Some banks report a few days after that date. Some banks, like Discover, they're going to report at whatever your data is as of the statement date. They are going to report that data that exact day. But not every bank is like that. Capital One, they report 3 days after your statement date. So again, it can vary, but we can expect to see it within 10 business days. Do not count holidays or weekends. We're just counting banking days. So next is understand what type of trade line is going to be best for you in your situation. Now, a lot of people always ask me what kind of trade line is going to benefit me the most. And my standard answer is it really just depends on what your goals are. So let's talk about that for a second. If your goal is to get a higher limit credit card, then you want to have a higher limit trade line added to your credit profile. So that way you can raise the bar. Basically what we're doing is we're adding that higher limit to our credit profile. So when we go and apply for credit, once the trade line posts, we now have a trade line that says, hey, we have a credit line on our credit report that is $25,000. So now our highest credit card limit is $25,000 that's listed on our credit report, and our lowest is $500. So maybe now the bank will meet us somewhere in the middle and say, okay, well, we'll give them $10,000 or we'll give them $7,500. That's a lot higher than you would have gotten had you not had that trade line on your credit profile, right? Some people, they want history. They need to improve their credit score by adding history. In that case, we would need to try to find a trade line that, is probably anywhere from, a couple thousand limit to 10,000, just kind of depending on their budget, because the higher the credit limit, the higher the credit age, the more the trade line is going to be. We're paying for age and we're paying for limits. If you just want a high limit, we have, some pretty cheap trade lines. If you want a higher history, then of course you're going to have to pay for that accordingly. But we price our trade lines extremely fair. We also have package deals. So if you're going to be buying more than one trade line, we can do a package deal for you, because our goal is to really help you reach your goals. And it all starts with credit. And credit is not just, an overnight process. It's a building. We have to build, we got to take a break, and then we got to build. And when it comes to trade lines, you want to add some trade lines, build credit, take a break for 6 months or so, and then when you're going after your next funding sequence, you want to add a couple more trade lines and build. So that way you're moving with your credit, okay? You're progressing your credit. You're adding more higher limit credit lines to your credit profile. So eventually the credit lines that you're approved for are going to be higher limit versus $500, $700, $1,000, $1,500. They're nickeling and diming you to death. And then when you do get those higher limits, you can ask for credit line increases along the way. Now here is a super pro tip. If you have added trade lines and for some reason you get declined for your credit card, or you just get a really low limit and you're like, look, this isn't right, call the reconsideration line before you accept the offer and ask them to reconsider everything based on your credit profile. Say, look, I don't have any collections. I don't have any derogatories. I have a 700 credit score. I have great trade lines. What more do you want from me? I need a higher limit credit card so I can make the purchases that I need to in my life. Let them know that you plan to spend heavy on this card, but you can't do it with a $2,500 limit, and see if they will provide you a manual review. You can literally go to Google and look up the reconsideration line for pretty much every creditor out there. If you can't seem to find it, just call the bank and ask to speak with the credit department. All right, so that's a pro tip for you guys. And if you don't like the offer, you don't have to accept it. Okay, once you accept it, it's like pretty much you got to keep it open and you don't want to close it. Even if you go years down the road and you're like, I hate this card, I don't want it, I just want to close it. No, you already have it open. You're getting history. It's got a perfect payment history. Just don't use it. Okay, put it in a drawer, but do not close it, because that affects your overall history. And that brings us to another topic is, adding history to your credit profile is definitely going to enhance your credit profile, because history is 15% of your credit score. So if you just started building credit, or you have a very thin credit profile, meaning you don't have a lot of credit accounts, if you add 2 trade lines to your credit report, of course your credit score is going to skyrocket, and you might go up 100 points, 80 points. I've seen so many people where they just didn't have much on their credit at all. We added a couple trade lines, nothing crazy, somewhere around 2 years to 5 years in age, and it was 5 to 10K in limits, and it raised their credit into the 700s. Now, what that person would need to do is build on top of that, because you can't just rely on trade lines to establish your credit score. You need to get the credit score that you desire. Like, for example, anything over a 700, it would be desirable nowadays. And then go and apply at some of the banks. Now, I provide coaching and training so we can work together. If you want to just book a single session, there's a link below where you can just book one single one-on-one session with me, and we can talk about a blueprint for you to build out your credit profile and what some good banks would be for you based on where you're located and just based on your goals and your situation. So we can do that, because sometimes going into this blind, you're looking at YouTube and social media, and you're just all over the place, and you're just not really sure what the heck is going to be good for you. Next thing you know, you've got 12 inquiries on your credit profile and haven't been approved for anything. So we want to make sure to avoid that, because inquiries do play a part, and some banks are very inquiry sensitive. So the goal would be to have less than 4 inquiries per bureau, and have any inquiry that is not associated with an open account deleted from your credit profile. So if you do need help with credit restoration, I can help you with that as well. So let's talk more about the trade lines and them reporting to your credit. I went over this briefly earlier, but I just want to make sure that we're A1, everyone understands it. We're clear on this. Trade lines report to your credit 10 days after the statement date. So every card has a different statement date. And let me just kind of show you guys an example. So this Chase card, it's a 62,600 credit limit. It was opened August 2019. It will report for a 3-month cycle. So most places that offer trade lines are only reporting for 2 months. Our trade lines are actually reporting for 3 months, so you get longer term with our trade lines. You see the statement date would be 7/27. So that means the statement date is the 27th of every single month. Statement dates range anywhere from the 1st to the 28th of the month. And then whatever the statement date is, so for example, this is the 27th. So around the 7th of the month, of the following month, you will see this trade line report onto your credit report. You'll see there's only one slot open. And this card is a little bit more pricey because of course the credit limit is so high. Now, would one need to just go directly for a $62,000 credit limit? No, you do not. Okay, especially if your highest credit limit right now is only, $1,000. Let's build up to that so you're not wasting your money on high limit credit lines, because it just doesn't make any sense, right? This is meant for someone who's already got a few high limit credit cards in their name and they want to get to the next level. This is not for someone that just started adding trade lines to their credit report, okay? Now, something that might be good for someone that's just starting to add trade lines is a credit line that's, anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000, somewhere around that range. That can be anywhere between 2 years history and 7 years history, just depending on, how much history you're looking to add to your credit profile. If, you just are looking for a boost of some sort, generally, you can expect anywhere between 3 and 5 points per year. But again, it just varies on your credit profile. If you have a bunch of negative items on your credit report, we need to focus on cleaning up those negative items first and then adding trade lines. Now, I do have some people come to me, they're like, hey, I've got one credit bureau free and clear of any derogatories. I want to add trade lines. Great, we can do that because we can leverage that one credit report to build credit with until the others are clear and free. And I've had a lot of people do that where, we'll strategically go to certain banks that pull just one credit report. Like for example, TransUnion. If you haven't seen my Navy Federal Masterclass, head over to the YouTube video or the description below where you can watch the Navy Federal Masterclass. They pull TransUnion. PenFed and Truist are going to pull from Equifax. Capital One, they pull from all three. So that's really no good, right? We want to strategically go to banks that are only going to pull from one credit report. Okay. You can freeze the other two just to ensure that they will only pull from that one bureau. But of course, it needs to be the bureau that they're known for pulling. Like, for example, Navy Federal, you want to keep TransUnion open. Now, I've had people where they've had TransUnion locked and they used Equifax, but I don't necessarily recommend that. So if you are going to Navy Federal, have TransUnion open, unlocked, and ready to rock and roll. You can freeze Experian and you can freeze Equifax. Now, of course, this is on the personal side, not the business side, because they pull Experian on the business side, but I have also seen them pull Equifax. So you just want to be mindful. It is based on territory because these were people that lived in other states. I live in California, so I've really just seen them pull from TransUnion and on the personal side and Experian on the business side, but that's a whole nother ball game. So let's get back to our trade lines here. They post 10 days after the statement date. And if you are wondering how to find your statement date, you can go to your credit card statement and you can look at the top corner. Usually it will say this billing statement is from this date to this date. The very last date is going to be your statement date. And then that data will report to your credit report. So it's important that if you do have a credit card balance, it is paid 5 business days prior to the statement date. This just to give the bank enough time to update your credit balances in case there's like, you know, a weekend or whatever. It's updated by the time your statement date hits because you want that data to report to the credit bureaus, okay? Now, how do we accept payment? Unfortunately, just like most trade line companies in this industry, we only accept cash payments. You can do direct deposit, ACH, Zelle, Cash App. Unfortunately, we used to take credit cards, but we had a client that did a chargeback on a credit card. After the trade line had posted, he actually waited until the end of the trade line cycle, and then he disputed the trade line with his credit card company, and we lost. So it cost me over $1,000, and that's just not the type of risk that I'm willing to take. I'm here to help you guys, you know, and do the right thing by you guys and make sure that your trade lines post. I don't need people like that who are going to do chargebacks when they receive the product. I can understand if you never received it, but that's why we have a guarantee on our trade lines. So if for some reason it does not post to your credit, we will replace it with the next best option so you don't just get left high and dry. And let me tell you a story about when I first started adding trade lines to my credit report. So I think the first trade line that I added was in around 2018. And this was before trade lines were very popular. So I found a lady on social media, and she sold me a trade line. And the first one posted, no problem. So I was really happy, and I sent her a screenshot of the results. It went up, my credit score went up like 50 points, something crazy, right? And I was like, wow, this is so awesome. I'm gonna buy a second one. So I bought a second one, and the second one was like over $1,000. And at that time, you know, I wasn't making a lot of money. $1,000 was a lot of money to me. $1,000 is a lot of money to anybody, okay? And basically, to make a long story short, the trade line never posted, and they never reimbursed me my money. The lady was like, oh, I'll give you your money back, you know, that saga, but I'm gonna have to pay you in payments. Well, I never received my payment back. And basically I got for $1,000 for a trade line that never posted. So I was on a mission at that point. I didn't badmouth her. I didn't, you know, do anything, because I understand she was working for somebody else and it was just a bad business. So I said, I'm going to find vendors that I can work with and people that I can work with that will never put someone through that, because it's not right for someone to have to pay $1,000 of their hard-earned money and then get scammed, right? And that's another reason why I don't offer primary trade lines, because they, in my opinion, for the most part, are a scam. And if they do post, which oftentimes they do not post, then the banks are kind of looking at them sideways because they've never heard of these banks. They've never heard of these financial institutes. So, you know, I had a client, you know, a couple years ago, he bought an auto trade line from somebody else. And I told him it's probably not a good idea, but he paid a few $1,000s for an auto trade line to try to get a higher, you know, limit auto loan. And the bank said no. They said that they thought the trade line was not accurate. So basically they had an idea that this was not a valid bank that would actually give an auto loan to someone. It just doesn't look real when all of a sudden you've never had an auto loan before and now you have a $60,000 or $70,000 auto loan. It's just not realistic. You have to have comparable credit and you have to build up to it. No bank in their right mind is just going to give you a $70,000 car if you have never even had a $25,000 car. Okay, so you have to build up to it. And that's why credit builder loans, like with Credit Strong, and just, you know, using your own money with secured loans as, you know, the pledge loan, just to show that you can pay back these larger installment loans are great, especially when you don't have a lot of installment history on your credit report. So, you know, to make a long story short, I got scammed and the trade line never posted. So I now offer trade lines that we can guarantee to post. Now, we guarantee trade lines to post to a minimum of 2 out of the 3 credit bureaus. Okay, now I can't tell you which 2 those are going to be, but most of the trade lines that I sell, about 95% of the trade lines that I sell, post to all 3. Some of the trade lines that do not post to all 3, and that has nothing to do with me or the card holder, but it's rather the bank, because some banks do not report to all 3. I have a Bank of America credit card on my credit profile right now. It only reports to 2 bureaus. I had a lady, she bought a Chase card. It only reported to 2 bureaus. So trade lines that are notorious for only reporting to 2, Bank of America, Chase, and Citi. Now, is it a guarantee with each of them? No. Sometimes they report to all 3. Sometimes they only report to 2. And out of all of the people that I have done business with, which is thousands of people, I've only had 3 trade lines that have not posted to someone's credit profile. And one of them was because the client had a credit lock on their profile, which we tell everyone, you have to unlock your credit profile and you have to remove all fraud alerts. And we'll get to that in just a second. But the bottom line is, the clients that trade lines did not post, we replaced those trade lines with the next best option that we had available. So if for some reason it doesn't post, we'll need your Experian login. I'll log in, I'll verify, hey, it's not reporting, and then we will get you some replacement options that will, satisfy the trade line request. So let's talk about what you need to do to prepare for trade lines, right? We don't want to add trade lines to your credit report if you have a bunch of collections, especially if you're paying for them. If you are getting a trade line from like a parent or a friend and you verify that they have 100% payment history and that they have a low credit usage, great. You can get added right away, even if you have collections, because you're not paying for it, right? But you still want to work on your personal credit to get the derogatory marks off of your credit report, whether that's paying for credit repair or actually paying the debt just to get it past you. You got to do something, because you can't just let it linger, because if you have open negative accounts and derogatory accounts on your credit profile every single month, they are literally hemorrhaging your credit because it's reporting as a derogatory every month. So the goal is to get more positive accounts than negative accounts, okay? And eventually no negative accounts. But even if you have, 1 or 2 credit bureaus free and clear of derogatory accounts, then you can add a trade line, boost your credit score up, and then once the credit trade line reports, apply for credit in your own name. The best rule of thumb, 3 credit cards for each bureau. And you might not get approved for all of them, but you need to make sure that you don't have your credit reports locked, and you need to make sure that you do not have a consumer statement listed on your credit profile. A lot of people have consumer statements listed on their credit report, especially if they got credit repair in the past. They don't even realize it, and that's the reason why they get declined and they're not getting approved for credit, is because they have a fraud alert under their consumer statement that says that they have to call before any credit is extended. Take that off, okay? You do not need anything under the consumer statement. You just want it blank. So before you get trade lines, you need to make sure that your credit is unlocked and that you do not have a personal statement on your credit report. If you do have a personal statement, you need to write the credit bureaus a letter. It can be handwritten. Please remove the personal statement on my credit report. Send them a copy of your ID, send them a copy proof of address, and send them a copy of your social security card to prove your identity and that you are requesting this. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. Just write it and send the proof, and hopefully you can follow up with them by phone and make sure that they actually did it, because sometimes they won't do it and it takes multiple requests and follow up for them to finally remove it off your credit. It's so annoying, but that's just how it works, right? Let's talk about what we will need from you in order for us to report the trade line. So we will need front and back of your photo ID. So this can be a state ID card or your driver's license or a passport. We will also need front and back of your social security card. Okay, why do we need this? Well, let me tell you guys another story. So obviously I have a lot of trade lines that I use as well. And two of my accounts were closed because one of my card holders, I did not have the front and back of their social and their ID. So unfortunately, they closed my account because they were not able to verify my authorized user's identity. And with the amount of, fraud going on in CPNs, banks will shut your account down quick. So I actually lost, that battle, but, I have a lot of credit cards, so it didn't affect me too much. But that's why we don't want to take any risk. We do not work with CPNs. We also are not able to add ITNs either. So we can only add those that have a valid photo ID from their state or a passport, plus a social security card. So we will need front and back of that. And we do have a secure client portal that you can upload it to, or you can just send it directly to me on my phone and I delete it right afterwards. So those are some of the things that we need. It's not because we're trying to steal your identity. It's because this is what the banks require from us, because they have to verify you. And some of the banks we have to upload this information to, but some of the banks we just have to keep it on file. So if we do get audited, we're able to provide them that information to verify all of our cardholders' identities. And I know it's like super annoying, but we have to protect ourselves, right? Because not only are you taking a risk on us, but we're taking a risk on you. We're adding you to our credit lines. We have to make sure that you're a real person. We take a risk of losing our credit lines and our trade lines if we add people that are trying to do malicious things. So that's, you have to consider both sides of the fence here. We're just all trying to win. We're all trying to, better ourselves. So we're not playing any games. We want to do things the right way. And this is a legal way to boost your credit score in the fastest manner possible by piggybacking off other people's great credit trade lines. So let's talk about a little bit more. We talked about trade lines are guaranteed to post to a minimum of 2 out of the 3 bureaus, but generally all of the trade lines that I recommend to my clients are going to post to all 3 credit bureaus: TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So some of the trade lines that I really like: PenFed, Navy Fed, Barclays, Discover is pretty good. Anything Elon, US Bank, PNC, USAA, those are really great. We do not have American Express because some American Express cards don't report the history and don't have a limit. So that's why we try to stay away from American Express cards. So most of these cards you will see are going to be, your major banks here, like Navy Federal. If you are a Navy Federal member and we're adding you to a Navy Federal credit card, we will need your access number because it is required from Navy Federal when we're adding another member. So pretty much anything on this list is going to be a great option. I like Huntington Bank. I like PNC. I'm just not a huge fan of the Chase, Bank of America, and Citi cards, just because I can't always depend on them to post to all 3 bureaus. But if your goal is to get in with Bank of America and you want to build a relationship with them, and Bank of America is a grade A trade line, no doubt about it. So is Chase, but sometimes they don't report to all 3. So I've had people where they knew this information. I told them, they said, hey, look, I don't care because my goal is to get a Chase credit card. My goal is to get in good with Bank of America so I can get, more autos with them or whatever the case is. Great, fine, no problem. But at least I'm being forthcoming with you guys and telling you my experience. Now, I have had people that have gotten Bank of America cards, and it reported to all three, no problem. So there's really not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it sometimes, and that's the frustrating thing, because even though I do credit full time, there's still so much mystery to credit, because there's not a one size fits all with credit. There's a lot of gray area. Just because we do one credit profile the exact same as we did another client does not mean that we're going to get the same results, does not mean that they're going to get the same, 100-point credit score increase that the client before them got. It's just, a matter of, the risk, right? You have to show your ability to pay on time. You have to show that you as a consumer are a low risk. Once you show that, your credit score continues to go up, okay? So let's talk about trade lines and how active they are, what happens after they fall off. That's a huge question that a lot of people always have for me. Trade lines are active for 3 billing cycles. So what does that mean? That means that they are going to report onto your credit report for 3 months. After that 3rd billing cycle, you will be removed as an authorized user unless you wish to extend it. Now, we don't let you know if you are going to be removed. We go by whatever order we have on file. So if you don't contact us and let us know, hey, I want to extend it, or I want to get another trade line, the order will be processed as it was when we received the order, which is initially every order comes with a 3-month term. Now, I have had some people say, look, I need it for longer. I need 6 months. I need 12 months. Whatever the case is, that's fine. We can put together a custom package for you. Or if you want to pay for the initial 3-month term and then you let us know in 2 months, hey, I want to renew it for another term, then we can see if there is a way that we can extend it for you. Some card holders will allow it, some won't. So it is a case-by-case basis. But if you do need it longer, just let us know, because we would need to extend you before the card holder actually removes you. We can't extend you after you've been removed. Once you've been removed, it's over. You would need to get another card added to your credit profile. Now, what happens when you are removed? Does your credit score go down? It could, right? So let me tell you my experience with this. And this is based on me adding trade lines to my credit profile. And I'll share with you guys how I did it and how I was able to achieve such high limits on my credit. So when you are removed, the goal is that in that 3-month period, you will have acquired credit that you can continue to pay on time and build up your credit. So if you do lose any points, it will go back up over time. Now, how many points can you expect to lose? That's the magical question. So the first time that I added trade lines to my credit report and the trade line dropped off, it literally crashed my credit. It literally costed me like 60 points. Why? Because I didn't have a whole lot of credit built up at that time. But over time, as I continue to pay my credit cards on time, acquire new credit, and just continue to build credit, my credit score continued to go up. I continued to add trade lines to my credit report, because some people think, oh, I could just buy trade lines one time and be over. Now, for some people that might work because they just need a temporary boost to buy a home or get approved for something. But if you're looking to build high limit credit cards, it is a process that needs to be done over time. And we'll touch on that process in just a minute. So, how many points you can expect to lose? It just depends. I've seen trade lines where they were removed as an authorized user, but the account still reported on the credit report. So it was still on there. It was just listed as the card has been terminated. So it does not say that you are an active authorized user. It says that it was terminated, which doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, because on my credit profile, I have probably about 6 different trade lines that are old and terminated, but they're still on my credit report and they still help me because I get the age on those bad boys, and I have those credit limits on my credit profile from those accounts. So it does still help. Now, some of the trade lines that you will get, they might fall off over time. So this is kind of a good thing as well, because here's the thing, you don't want a bunch of terminated accounts on your credit profile. And here's another thing to think about. If for some reason you got added to someone's card as an authorized user, a family member or a friend, and they got a late payment or their credit utilization went sky high, have them remove you from your credit profile, and then you can get the account removed from your credit report, because you don't want their mistakes affecting you. That's why it's always a good idea to do business with a trade line company like myself, because we guarantee all of our cards are below a 15% credit card utilization, and they have 100% on-time payment history. If for some reason it does not match that, we will instantly remove that person and replace it. But all of our cards are vetted. I've literally never had anybody complain about, hey, this trade line has a late payment on it. There was one time where the credit utilization was at 16%, which was 1% higher than our guarantee. And we actually replaced that card with another card. And when we took the card holder off, that trade line was removed from their credit profile as if it never existed. Because we don't want to inherit someone else's high credit card utilization. It's not going to help us, obviously not going to help anybody, right? So you could take a hit, but it's not a big deal, because you want to just understand the concept behind it. It is temporary. You are using it to enhance your credit profile for the time that it's active. And if you do take a dip, continue to pay your bills on time, keep your credit utilization low, like below 15% on each card, and only keep a balance on a couple different credit cards. Just because you have 5 credit cards, you should not have a balance on all 5 credit cards. If you have 5 credit cards, you should really only have a balance on maybe 1 or 2 of those credit cards. If you have 10 credit cards, you can keep a balance on, maybe 3, but if you're going after funding and you're going to apply for credit, you don't want to have a balance on many cards, maybe 2 if that, and those balances should be relatively low, preferably below 10%, especially when you're going after a funding round, because we want to make sure that we're optimizing, the best odds of getting approved. Another popular question I get is, do trade lines work for business credit? Now, that's a great question, because trade lines help enhance your credit profile. They could enhance your credit score. They could enhance your credit history, right? But if you want to get business credit, you need to have credit in your own name. So the trade lines are not going to help you get approved for business credit, but they will help you get approved for credit in your personal name, which will in return help you get approved for business credit, if that makes sense. I hope it does. But it is, kind of a process. And that's why I tell people it is a process. It takes time, but we have to start to finish, right? And a lot of people, they don't want to be consistent. They want instant gratification, and there's nothing instant about credit except for when you get a late payment, your credit score goes down instantly. When you get high credit card utilization, your credit score will go down instantly. When you mess up, your credit score will go down instantly. But guess what? When you revive yourself, your credit score is not going to go up as many points as you lost. So you have to understand how to play this little game of credit, okay? And understand that, a lot of people out there talk about how, trade lines don't work. Well, there's different credit scoring models where trade lines are less relative. Like, for example, the FICO 10, it's going to be less relative for trade lines. But what bank is actually using FICO 10? None that I actually know of right now. Most banks are still using the FICO 8 and FICO 9 credit score. You just have to understand the purpose of trade lines. The purpose of trade lines is to help you boost your credit in the fastest manner possible, right? They're for a quick boost. So if you're in the process of getting a home loan, you are getting, credit cards, you're getting something where you need to have a certain score to get approved, you can add Tradelines and it'll boost you up there. I've had a lot of clients that were in the process of buying a home. They just needed, 30 to 50 points boost, but they already had credit in their name. It was just they're waiting for everything to kind of update so their score went up. And this will do it. This will boost you up so that way you can help get you approved. Auto loans, credit cards, mortgages, rental spots, anything like that where you're going to need your personal credit. It's also great to help you acquire higher credit limits because, again, we touched on this a little bit earlier. If your highest credit card is $500, what makes you think this bank is just going to give you a $25,000 credit card, especially if you don't have a relationship with them, right? Very unlikely. So we have to build up to that. We have to add comparable credit. You can't just go from 0 to 1,000, overnight, or 0 to 25,000 overnight. You have to grow your credit over time. And, even if we can add a $10,000 trade line that would help you get approved for 8,000 or 9,000 or even 7,500, great, because that's a great starting point. And then over time, you can ask for credit line increases. And over time, you can continue to build your credit. And then you want to take a break for about 6 months or so. And then you want to build up your credit. And then when you're ready to build again, add an additional round of trade lines to help enhance your score, enhance your history, because all this new credit that you're getting, we're bringing down our overall history. So I've had some people come to me, their overall history is only like at 6 months because they've acquired so much new credit recently. So that's why trade lines are great to help boost your credit score back up, get you back to where you want to be at, and then go after another round of funding. So that's really why I like trade lines and what their benefits are, because let me tell you guys something. Everyone has got their opinions over trade lines, and I think it's really just, a matter of, what is your goals? Is this going to mesh well with your credit goals? Yes or no? Is this really going to be able to help you? Or are you just wanting to get a nice flashy credit score? Because you have to have a reason to want, these trade lines and understand what you're paying for. Trade lines are not cheap by any means. They are an investment, but if you take your credit serious and you understand what credit can actually do for you, this investment is nothing. Right? I've had people invest, a couple $1,000s into trade lines, and they were able to get hundreds and thousands of dollars of credit because they invested in their credit, right? If you don't have comparable credit on your credit profile, banks are going to have a harder time finding you credible. So it's easier when we can kind of piggyback. So this is a great way to be able to do that if you don't already have a friend, a family member, mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, who is willing to add you to their trade line, to their credit card. A lot of people, especially family members, they're skeptical. They don't know how this works. They don't want to mess up their credit. Well, I'm here to tell you, there is no way that you can mess it up unless they give you a card. So the only benefit or risk, I should say, that a card holder would have is if they mess up, right? Because we're not going to give the credit card to anyone. The person that's added as an authorized user won't have access to the account. The only benefit here is that we're going to be adding this person to the credit card so they can inherit the benefits of this perfect credit card onto their credit profile and then piggyback off that and get approved for the things that they need in life. Trade lines, oh my gosh, trade lines. Trade lines are a great way to be able to help your children get a very high credit score by the time they turn 18. So for example, now start building credit with credit cards. You can add multiple authorized users to your credit cards, and you can add your children to some banks as early as 13 years old, right? It's not going to really help them until they turn 18 because that's when, you'll be able to get their credit scores and all of that great stuff. But trade lines, you building your own trade lines, You can help your children, or you can actually start a trade line business where you can do this to make some additional income. This is a great way to produce an additional stream of income for yourself, but you want to make sure you have 100% on-time payments, low credit utilization. You want to manage the cards very good. So let's talk about my experience with Tradelines and how I was able to get into this. And a lot of people always want to know, what's your story? What's your backstory? How did you get here? How do you know so much? And a lot of it is through personal experience and me helping other people. I didn't really get into credit until about 2017, when I literally lost everything. I went to work one day. Check this out, okay? Like, everything that happened to people during COVID, it pretty much happened to me like in 2017. So I was with this company for like 10 years. I was the VP of operations, and I had helped build this beautiful big company out of nothing. Like, we were such a small, tiny, small office when I first started. And, over a 10-year period, I helped grow them to be one of the largest monotronics dealers in the United States. And unfortunately, they went out of business. So I went to work one day, just like it was any other day, and we had just moved into a new office building. So I thought maybe, we were changing a leaf, and we were on the up and up. But I go to work to be told it's over. Our doors are closing. We lost our license and it's over. So I was heartbroken, because this was a company that I spent the last 10 years of my life dedicated, all hours. I was there. I was the manager that worked 6 days a week. I was the manager. Like, this was my baby. This was my business that I helped grow. I was right underneath the owners, and there was hundreds and hundreds of employees underneath me. And a lot of them were my friends, and I had to tell them it's over. And it was so sad. But when you only have one stream of income, nothing lasts forever. Okay. So that's why we need to get our credit together, so we can create multiple streams of income. So if, God forbid, something like this does happen, we have other streams of income, so we won't fall flat on our behind. So that's exactly what happened to me. I got the rug swept right from underneath me, and I lost everything. I had to sell my home before I lost it. And, I bought my first home when I was 23 years old. Okay. So I was in my home for over 10 years. I had customized it to my liking. I had just spent $30,000 cash remodeling my home. If I was more educated about credit, I would have never done that. But I used a huge chunk of my savings to completely customize my kitchen. And I had just done the downstairs, the bathroom, custom tile floors. Like, I was making a lot of money. And when you make a lot of money, you also spend a lot of money. So I wasn't educated with credit. I wasn't educated in regards to financing, and nothing. I always had good credit because I paid my bills on time, but I wasn't educated because money wasn't an issue, right? But things changed. So when all that happened, my credit literally tanked almost immediately. You can literally see my credit score go whoo, like shoot down to 400s. I sold my house. I had cash, but guess what? I didn't have any credit. And when you don't have any credit, it doesn't matter if you can pay rent for a year, because your credit is so bad. Nobody wants to rent to you because you're not credit worthy. So I ended up at a family member's house, and it was just a dark, ugly time for me. I was living in a extended stay hotel, and I could just, be in a depression because I was so just upset that I didn't see this coming. And I was also just not right in my relationship at the time. I was in a very abusive relationship. So my ex-husband, he was, alcoholic, woman beater, all of the above, drug addict. So I was dealing with that as well. So it was a tough time for me, but I finally said, I just gotta start a new life. And that's exactly what I did. I started all over. I literally got my stuff together, started working on my credit, and said, you know what? I need to get this stuff together. So I hired a couple companies, wasn't the best experience. I used 𝓔𝓏𝓪𝓲𝓵. I used a couple other of the credit places that show up on the Google searches when you search. I can't say their name, but I used some of those, and I really just didn't get the results. So I studied, I started doing it myself. I started learning about building credit, started learning about trade lines. I finally got one of my credit reports cleaned up. And then I started adding trade lines to my credit report. Now, I tell you, I had the hardest time building credit. So many places that I applied to told me no, but I just wasn't educated. I had fraud alerts on my credit report, not because I put them there, but because when I started disputing items with the credit bureau, they automatically put them on my credit report under my consumer statement, even though I asked nothing of this. So that's why, I tell you, you have to really pay attention to what the credit bureaus put, because sometimes it's a computer system, sometimes it's just an error, and you want to make sure that you know how to read your credit reports so you can avoid these types of mistakes. So I added trade lines. My first trade line hit, I think it was like a huge like light bulb that went off in my head. Like, oh my God, I never knew that this was so impactful, because up until that point, the highest credit card that I had was $1,500. And you may have heard me say this in some of my previous videos, but PenFed, Pentagon Federal Credit Union, was the first credit union to approve me for more than $500 credit limit. I was getting approved from like Capital One, Credit One, all of these little crappy, credit builder accounts, all like 500, 700, crappy little limits, right? And I finally said, I need to, get some higher limits. I can't do nothing with this. So my first high limit credit card, which was $1,500, the highest limit that I had at that time, I went and bought my laptop computer. So I bought an asset that can help make me money over time. But, I buy and I pay. I buy and I pay. So that's what helps raise your limits, spend, pay. But then once the trade lines were added to my credit profile, all of a sudden I start getting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $22,000, $25,000. I start getting higher limit credit cards. Even Apple gave me $10,000. GM Financial, $8,000, because they're both underwritten by Goldman Sachs. So when you start adding those higher limits to your credit profile, of course, a lot of what happens is computerized. So when they see those higher amounts and you have some sort of comparable credit on your credit profile, boom, that's going to help you raise the bar. And then it's up to you to continue to raise the bar. Spend, pay, max it out, but guess what? Pay it off almost instantly, okay? Don't ever max out your credit cards and then allow that to report to the credit bureaus. Make sure if you do max out your credit cards because you're trying to grow your limits, you pay that bad boy almost immediately, and make sure that it's paid prior to the closing date of your cycle, okay? And if you're not sure, you can call the bank and ask them, or look on your credit card statement that they mail you or that you can get in your app, and just look for, the statement date is as of this date and then dash this date, and it's the last day, okay? So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell. Is I was able to grow my personal credit trade lines on my personal credit report up to the mid $30,000 range by adding trade lines to my credit report. And mind you, the highest trade line that I ever added to my credit profile was like $25,000. So I haven't even really tried going the $60K and $75K route yet. That's on the horizon. So wait until I start adding $60,000 or $50,000 trade lines to my credit report and do my next round of funding. My next round of funding is going to be in about probably about 12 months or so. I'm really waiting this time because I want to let my age get back up there, and I just want to let things marinate, because you don't want to apply for too much credit too quickly. That's one thing that I learned very fast when I was building credit. Was I was building, but then I didn't have any history. So that's why I say use the method that I have put together for you guys, which is called build, break, build. It's very easy. 3 words. Build your credit, okay? And when you're building your credit, use banks that are only going to pull from one credit bureau. You can try, 3 to 4 banks per credit bureau, okay? So if it's Equifax banks, find 3 to 6 banks that pull Equifax, and you can apply with them all at the same time, right? Apply that same method to TransUnion and to Experian. Then once you get approved for some credit cards, the goal is to get at least 3 credit cards. Hopefully you don't get approved for all of them because it's just way too much, but anywhere from 3 to 5 is a good number. 6 is even okay as well, but 3 to 5 is the goal. Then you want to take a break. Okay, break for about 6 months. Don't apply for anything. Don't do anything unless, of course, you have to. Take a break. If you want to take a break for longer than 6 months, do it, because credit is a process, right? You want to just show, okay, I got the credit. Now let me show my payment history, because banks want to see at least a 24-month payment history when it comes to business credit. Business credit is a whole nother beast. We're just talking about how to, structure your personal credit and use trade lines to enhance your personal credit. It's the fastest way. But of course, you still need to build credit in your own name, because a lot of people don't realize that there is such thing as synthetic credit. And I've heard a lot of auto dealerships and finance managers talk about synthetic credit. And what synthetic credit is basically where they have credit profiles that are just full of authorized user trade lines. So of course they're going to have a really great credit score, a 750 credit score, but none of those accounts belong to them. They don't have any comparable credit in their own name. They've never had an auto loan. They don't have any installment loans, so they get declined. And guess what? They just ran your credit 30 times, okay? Even though you had a 750 credit score, you still got declined. Why? Because you have to have comparable credit, right? If you're not sure how to do that, we can, set up a coaching call. We can go over what you need to do to build up your credit to get approved, because a lot of people go in blindly when they apply for things, uneducated, and they literally just waste their time because their credit is ran a bunch of times. They don't know how it works. Really, I would never go to an auto dealership. Now that I'm educated, I would never just go to an auto dealership and say, hey, run my credit, see if I can get approved, see who you can get me approved with. Never, never. They get mad at me at the auto dealerships. They don't like me because I come there with financing, okay? I'm coming with a check from the credit union. Last time I bought a car at CarMax, shout out to CarMax. I love CarMax. If you don't love your car, you can take it back. And I have used that before, twice, because I do Turo. But my last car that I bought, I showed up to CarMax with the check in hand from Navy Federal. No money out of pocket. The check covered for everything, taxes, fees, all that good stuff. And I walked out the door with a brand new car. Okay? No hassle, no upsell, no, I don't want your warranty. The only thing that I want is gap insurance, right? We can add that on there. But that's a prime example of how you can leverage credit to build wealth and literally play this game to where you're not paying 25, 28% interest on an auto. My interest rate is 3%, 3.5 or 3.8%, okay? That is amazing. That literally can save someone hundreds of dollars every month. And it wasn't necessarily based on my credit score. It's based on my profile, how I built my profile. I know people that have a really strong credit profile, but their credit score isn't really high. Why? because they might have heavy utilization. They might not have enough credit history. That's why we can use Tradelines to enhance the credit profile, lower the overall credit utilization, right? But understand this, if you are in severe debt, this is temporary. So unless you're going after some sort of debt consolidation loan, I would recommend just using the money that you're going to use to buy Tradelines and pay down some of your debt to where you only have a balance on a couple cards, and then we can add a Tradeline to your credit profile, right? Tradelines are not meant for people that are maxed out on every credit card, right? They're a temporary fix. I recently helped one of my clients, but that was pretty much maxed out on like 10 different credit cards. We added a $33,000 credit Tradeline to the profile, and the credit score went up about 60 points, but it still did not solve the problem. There's still a ton of debt on the profile. The credit score will go up temporarily, but the client still needs to pay off the debt. And that kind of, just helps me, guys, because I like to share these type of stories with you so you don't make the same mistakes. You want to make sure that you're purchasing Tradelines at the right time for you, right? There's no point of me and you talking on the phone, setting up a call when you're not ready to purchase. I talk to a lot of people every single day that are like, oh, I want Tradelines. I want Tradelines. Okay, great. Well, here's the price. And, here's the information. Oh, I'm not ready. I need credit repair, or I have someone working on my credit and they're not done with it yet. Okay, well, we have to move quick with Tradelines because Tradelines availability, they're always changing, right? Our card holders, they work with multiple people. So when we see a Tradeline that is available today, that Tradeline may be purchased by somebody by tomorrow. The best Tradelines go the quickest. So that's why it's really important that when we're, putting together a package for you, that you're ready to move forward, because we can't really put a package together until we're ready to rock and roll. Because once we tell the card holder, hey, we need to reserve this card, they might do me a favor because I've been doing business with them for so long. They might reserve it for 24 hours, but usually it's like 2 hours to get the process of the payment to them so they can process the order. But let's talk about this file real fast, because a lot of people have a question like, how does it work? And how do I read this bad boy? Well, let's go over that. Okay, so the way that this list works is you're gonna select the inventory ID number. That's how we are going to determine what card you are interested in. Now, this ID number is going to be associated with the Chase card, the $62,600 credit limit. It was opened August of 2019. It will report for 3 months. So it says number of cycles, 3. Each cycle is a 1-month term, okay? Statement closing date, that is going to vary based on each card. Closing dates can range anywhere from the 1st to the 28th of the month. This card is closed on the 27th. So just because it says 7/27, that means it's going to be on the 27th of each month. There is 1 slot available right now. So you'll notice most of these cards, I have got the card holder to allow us 1 spot for most of these cards. Some of the cards I've negotiated 2, but for the most part, there's only going to be 1 or 2 slots available on each of these credit cards. So they do go quick, especially those that have the high credit limit and the high credit age. Now, for those of you that just need a higher credit age, you want to go with a card that has, been open for some time. If you are, an older person, say, I'm an older person, we probably would want to go with a card that has at least 10 years worth of history, because that's really where you're going to see the best bang for your buck is more history. Because again, history is about 15% of your credit score. So you want to add cards that have that good history on them. So that is where you're going to see, when it was opened here. So for example, this Navy Federal �DE001 Navy Federal, it's a $40,000 credit limit. It was opened September of 2012, 3-month cycle. The closing date is the 8th. So we would need to have the order in by the 3rd, because we need 5 days prior to the statement date to process the order. And then it would report to your credit by the 18th. So it's 10 days after the statement date is when all of the cards will report to your credit report. And then of course the price. Now a lot of people ask me, like, what's your price? What do you cost? Well, every trade line is different. They're all based on the credit limit and the credit age. Now, if you want a cheaper credit card or trade line, and you say your budget is, not much, you can always contact us. These are, our better trade lines, but we do have more that are budget friendly. The lowest trade lines that we have are around $400, especially, for a 3-month cycle. You're not going to find anything less than $400. If that's the case, you're better off just, spending your money to build primary credit in your own name. It is going to take longer. So whenever, you're dealing with credit, it's going to cost something. It's either going to cost money or it's going to cost time. If you've got the time, great. Then just utilize your time wisely and build credit. If you've got the money and you're in a rush, you're going to have to invest in your credit. You're probably going to have to invest some of your cash on your credit. So that's, it's building, and you really have to either pay or you have to continue to play. So figure out, what path you're going to go down, but there's no sense of us talking about trade lines until you are actually ready to add the trade lines to your credit report. And you can always email us support@creditcoachpros.com and ask any questions that you might have in regards to trade lines. But this is how you read the trade line list. The inventory ID number is what we will need to process your order. You can always confirm who the lender is, which is going to be the bank that the credit card is with. The credit limit, that's going to be the credit limit of that particular card. And again, all of our cards will guarantee less than a 15% credit utilization. Generally, they're much lower than that, but cardholders sometimes have to use a larger amount of their credit to keep those higher limits. So sometimes it might be, up to 15%, but it's going to be below 15%. This is the date that it was open, the month and the year. So you'll see March of 2021. So this doesn't have much age to it. It does have a limit of 7,500. Again, all of our trade lines are going to post for 3 months. The statement date is the 24th, so it'll post, the following month, probably somewhere in the first week of that following month. And then the price for this particular one is $550. So if you are doing a package deal, you can email us support@creditcoachpros.com and we can put together a package plan for you. Sometimes we do have specials where we will provide the credit repair at no cost to you if you purchase 2 or more trade lines. So you can always contact us and see if we are having a special. Usually we do it once or twice a year where we will offer free credit repair with the purchase of 2 trade lines, because again, our goal is to help you, and the fastest way to do that is to literally go through it with someone that's been through it themselves and has helped thousands of other people. Because you can easily go to Lexington Law or some of these other credit places, but the people that you have talked to, you don't know, this is just a job for them, right? You don't know what their credit score is, okay? You want to deal with someone who's been through this themselves, understands the process, can provide guidance to you, so that way you're not just shooting in the dark, right? You don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we have a plan and that we're strategically going about this the right way. There is a time and a place for trade lines, so you want to make sure that you are optimizing the time and the place that is going to be best fit for your goals and your needs, guys. So without further ado, guys, I really appreciate you watching. Make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, Credit Coach Nicole Scott. Follow me on Instagram at Credit Coach Nicole Scott. I have Facebook as well, but it is a newer account because my Facebook was hacked last year. So sad. And I lost everyone that was on there, unfortunately. So if you have any questions, you can always DM me on Instagram at Credit Coach Nicole Scott. But make sure that you have liked the video, subscribed to the channel, and watch all of the videos in the next playlist. So in short, guys, if you are ready to purchase Tradelines, book a call with me so we can discuss a package that is going to be best fit for your need. Make sure that you have everything ready to go when we are doing this. I'm not saying that you have to buy from me, but if you are going to buy Tradelines from anyone, it's best to support your local small business, Credit Coach Nicole Scott, so that way I can create more videos that are going to help you once you have the Tradelines added to your credit report. Some of the banks that you can go to, how can you leverage your credit, so on and so forth. I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate your support. Thank you for watching today. And if you are ready to purchase Tradelines, make sure that you have booked a free call with me. And again, you are going to be speaking directly to me. I am very busy. The call is only 10 minutes, but I am more than willing to try to see what we can do to put together a plan and a package that is going to be best fit for your goals and your budget. So in short, guys, that's how the inventory list works here. If you do have any questions, or if you are ready to purchase your Tradelines, you can book a call with me below. There is a link. If you would like to opt in to our mailing list and get our Tradelines on a monthly basis, there is a link below where you can actually opt in for our Tradeline list, and you will continue to get updates from us. You can unsubscribe at any time, but at least you can stay updated with the latest and greatest of this information. And we always send out extra bonuses and free ebooks to our mailing list, so it's just a good spot to be on, especially when we have our sales where we offer free credit repair with the purchase of 2 Tradelines. So if you are ready to move forward, make sure that you have everything that we have discussed: front and back of your photo ID, front and back of your driver's license. If for some reason you don't have those items, you're going to need to order them before we can add you as an authorized user. If you would like to make a payment plan, you can do so, but we are not able to add the Tradelines until your payment plan has been paid in full. So oftentimes when we are having our specials and we are offering the free credit repair with the purchase of 2 Tradelines, we can do payment plans for people, and you can pay $250, as low as $250 per month for, you know, your package. Because generally, if you want good Tradelines, you're going to want to invest at least $1,500 to $2,000 for a couple really good Tradelines. Now, we could obviously put a package together that's going to be less, but we want to make sure that it's going to fit your goals and your needs. There's no sense of adding, you know, Tradeline that's only 2 years old. You're not going to get a whole lot of benefit from that. But if you were to, you know, up your budget $100, we can get a Tradeline that's 10 years old. Obviously, that would make much more sense for you. So we want to do what makes sense for you. If you already have an idea of what you're looking for, of course, we can put together some items that are going to be best fit for your goals and your needs. If you are looking for business Tradelines, I've left a link below where you can view our business Tradelines, and I have another video that explains exactly how the business Tradelines work. These, again, are just the authorized user Tradelines that we have. I do not have primary Tradelines that I sell, nor do I recommend them. I have, had them in the past, and to be honest with you, it's just really shady business. And, if and when these primaries do report, oftentimes it's only to one bureau. They're very expensive. and they're not with major banks. So they're, you know, crappy trade lines that, you know, anybody could say that, you know, yeah, sure, it's a credit trade line, but, you know, like I told you guys before, there are banks that are not going to buy it, you know, and you might just be spending a whole lot of money on a primary trade line that, you know, you could have gone about it a different way. I mean, you can create your own primary trade lines by doing secured loans, and I have some videos on how you can do the pledge loan hack with multiple credit unions besides Navy Federal. You can always do it with Navy Federal as well. So there's a number of different ways that you can go about it, but at the end of the day, if you're just not sure what route is good for you, that's why I recommend the coaching. And we do have coaching packages starting at $1,500 where you get 6 one-on-one sessions. You also get the business credit course and the personal credit course and the Turo course to start your own rental car business included, plus the 6 one-on-one coaching sessions, and you will get a discount on the personal and business trade lines. So it is worth it for those of you that are looking for more of the guided route, because you don't want to make the same mistakes that I made when I was first starting out, believe me. So invest in your credit, guys. This is the foundation when it comes to everything, because you're going to need it. It's not a matter of when I need it or if I need it. It's going to be a matter of you're going to need it. So start taking it serious now. Start investing in your credit, making sure that you're educated and getting everything together. I'm telling you guys, now is the time. So like I said, if you're ready to move forward and you want to purchase trade lines or you want to talk about improving your credit, book a call below and we will talk soon. Until next time, guys, I thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you have subscribed to the channel and like and comment.